Hello everyone, it's Dev again. So I thought I would share with you guys my homemade Sloppy Joe recipe that I've been making for a few years now. And as usual, I use all organic ingredients whenever possible, just because I'm not in the mood to eat pesticides and GMOs and stuff. So this is what we have here, and I will put the recipe down in the description box for anybody who wants to try this for themselves. And we've just got ground beef, onion, red bell pepper, tomato paste, Worcestershire sauce, apple cider vinegar, honey, and a bunch of spices, and a little bit of sugar. And this is really easy, and I can't find like an organic manwich or whatever, can I say that word? So I pretty much had to come up with my own recipe, and I just found a recipe online at allrecipes.com, and with most of my recipes that I find, I just find something close and then I'll just tweak it and make it how I want it. And I just use these nitrile gloves for the hamburger so that I don't have to wash my hands after I'm done touching it. And this is organic grass-fed ground beef, and normally with these vacuum sealed packages there'll be one corner that is separated, right like that. There's just one corner of all four of them that has a little bit of a separation, and so if you just pull those apart, normally it works. Sometimes it doesn't, always work, but most of the time it comes away really cleanly. And I don't even take it all the way off. I just, open part of it. So yeah, 1 pound of ground beef. And I'm just gonna set it right there and then break it up in here. And then I just use normally a half of an onion. I like to use Vidalia, but I don't have Vidalia onions, but these are sweet onions. And I normally just use half of an onion because this is only 1 pound of ground beef. But this particular onion, it's got bad parts on it. I'm just going to use what I can, and so I'll probably use that whole onion and throw away half of it, and so it'll still be a half of an onion. And then for the bell peppers, I've used yellow bell peppers, orange, red, whatever is growing in my garden or whatever I can get at the store. Since I'm not doing my garden anymore, I have to depend on what's at the store. And you don't need very much. I can't get the glove off. And so I actually only use a half of that, and even just a third of that. But whatever. You can't get small bell peppers. There's just no way. And so I've already mixed up the spices in that bowl there. And like I said, I'll put the recipe down in the description box so that you can see what all I'm using here. And you can tell there's a bad spot right there. And the skin of it is a little bit rough, and so I'm going to have to take off a whole extra layer. Whereas normally I would just have to take off the paper skin. I'm going to have to take off a lot more than that this time. So I'm just taking a whole extra, that whole thing. I don't like for stuff to go bad, and I try to use as much of it as I can. Actually, I think there's a lot more here than I thought. There is one spot there that I've got to cut out. I put my electric burner on 3, and I think that'll be good enough. Yeah, I think I can still just do half of this, and I'll keep the other half in a plastic container with a lid in the refrigerator. which I don't have with me right now because I thought I was going to just throw away half that onion, but it's actually not too bad. So I'll have to go in the kitchen and get a container for it. I hope you're all doing well. It is cold here in Indiana. Been very cold at night. The sun is shining, thankfully, but still not very warm. Everybody cuts their onion a little bit different. This is just the best way I've found to chop onions. And yeah, if they're strong onions, I do cry sometimes, but that's okay. And usually I'll find another use for this other half of the pepper. My ex is almost always making some kind of concoction with, you know, pasta and some kind of sauce and whatever, so he'll use the other half of this with no problem. And I just take the core out. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. Trying to get the camera angle okay. And I just cut all the way around and pull that out and knock out some of those seeds. I have a trash can right underneath me. And so I'm going to leave half of it for something else. And right there, you just got to cut out those membranes. Just right down the side there. And then I cut it in half to be able to get to the rest of it. And I'll probably leave the seeds in this other half until it gets used. So I'll just put that in like a plastic bag or something. Sorry, that was probably loud. So it's already starting to sizzle over here. And I forgot to get a spatula to stir it with. Hold on. Hold please. Ain't nothing organized yet. I've got to get a good way to organize my utensils for the road. I've had some feral cats showing up outside the garage. So now I'm feeding stray cats because, well, I feel very sorry for them because it's so cold. And so I'm just mixing that onion in with the ground beef. And then I just cut these in strips. Sorry. My tummy's growling. And there's a little bit of an end on there that I don't like. Probably can't see that little tiny thing. I'm going to cut that off and make it go bye-bye. And I guess you can cut these however big you want them. You probably don't want too huge of pieces. And I live next to a Kroger, and they have Simple Truth organic hamburger buns, and they're wheat, and so that's what I buy for hamburger buns around here. These don't want to stack up very nicely, so I kind of have to fight with them and try to get them all back in line. It's usually good enough though. But the ends want to be a little bit of a bear. So I cut those off first. See, they just have a mind of their own. And it usually seems like too much pepper and onion for 1 pound of ground beef, but it turns out okay. I don't think it's too much in the end. I simmer this for an hour after I add everything. And so it does break down more as it's cooking. I would fast forward if I could. I just cut through my fingernail. See, you're supposed to keep your fingernails out of the way. Duh, Dove. At least I have fingernails for it to go through instead of my finger. So that's okay. But yeah, now I have a gash in my fingernail. And I just chop it up a little bit more. This knife that I bought for the road is quite a bit smaller than the knife that I'm used to. So that's going to take some getting used to. My other knife is a couple inches longer and the handle is bigger. And I have big hands anyways. So I don't think I really like this knife all that much, but I guess it'll do. The knife set that's here is staying here with my ex-husband and my son. So I just stir that in and I put the lid on it and I cook it until the ground beef is all the way cooked through. And then I take the lid off and add everything else to it. But yeah, this has to be done first, so I'm just gonna let that go and I will get back to you when it's all ready. That's what it looks like now. Everything is broken up and everything. So I'm just gonna put my lid on it and that'll probably take, yeah, about 10 minutes. So hold on. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes and I was cooking it with the lid on, and every few minutes I was going in and just giving it a good chop because I want all the hamburger to be, you know, as small as possible. And you can tell that I probably could have cut the peppers up a little bit smaller, but they'll still be okay. But here at the end, even though that's done all the way through, it's still got some water in there. So what I do, sorry, got a frog in my throat. So what I do is I take the lid off and I'm going to let that cook off and let the water evaporate off, because this was, I think, 90% ground beef, so there should not be very much grease left at the end. So all of that, the majority of that is water. So I'm just going to leave the lid off and let that cook off as much as possible, and then I will take some paper towel and soak up any actual fat that's left over. I'll use a paper towel to soak that up. So hold on, I'll get back to you. Okay, so I am in a bit of a hurry, so I had to turn that up to 5 to cook off that water. And I just wanted to show you, hopefully the camera will focus. It doesn't look like it wants to focus, but you can hopefully see that liquid's gone now. And actually there's not even enough grease there. There's a little tiny stream right there. Oh, yep, there's a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to capture that. You can see there's a little bit left, but it's obviously just grease now. All that water has cooked off. And so the easy way for me to get grease out is to just take a paper towel. I don't try to just drain it. That's because you can lose a lot of food if you try to do that. And then what are you going to do with it? Drain it down the sink? I don't think so. And so I just move all that over to one side and I put the paper towel down in the other side. And then I just tilt the pan and let all the grease flow down onto that paper towel, and it'll just wick it right up. And then that can just go in the trash can. I'm not having to drain it down the sink or anything like that. And there's really not that much grease left. my ex has just arrived home. And so even though I normally like to cook this for an hour after adding everything, I'm probably not going to be able to do that tonight because he's going to be ready to eat soon. And so I just push that paper towel up underneath the ground beef, and it's totally saturated now. And then, you know, if this was like 85%, I would do that again with another fresh paper towel, but I don't have to. And so all that grease is out of there right now. And so what I do is I take, this is the sugar and all the different spices. There's sugar, yellow mustard, white pepper, chili powder, pink salt, all-purpose seasoning, paprika, and garlic granules in here. And so I just put that in one dish and I mixed it all together. And so I just dump it in there, sprinkle it on there evenly over that ground beef. And then I mix that in before adding the water. And so all the ground beef will be coated with that seasoning. And so I don't have to worry about the spices floating to the top or anything like that, which is what would happen if you put the water in first and then added the spices. So I always add the spices to the ground beef and then mix that in. Whether I'm making this or my homemade like hamburger helper, I do the same thing. And then this is, I use 1 1/3 cups of water. This is reverse osmosis water. So that was 1 cup. That was a little bit more than 1/3, but it's okay because if I just cook it down more, it'll cook off on its own. So I just add that. Try to get it down from the sides. I've got peppers everywhere. And I just mix that in really well. And I'm going to keep it up on 5 right now just because I want it to come to a simmer very quickly. And then I use 1 1/2 teaspoons of Worcestershire, and I measure the Worcestershire first because it's really thick, and then I use the same amount of apple cider vinegar in the same teaspoon, and the apple cider vinegar kind of rinses out my measuring spoon. This is a 1 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon. It's kind of a rarity. And I always try to wipe off the bottle so that it doesn't make a big mess. And I'm just holding the measuring spoon over there and letting it drip. And then the apple cider vinegar kind of rinses out that Worcestershire. Whoop, that was a little bit more than I needed. That's okay. But then if there's still a little bit left in there, and so I just kind of rinse it off there in that water that was there. And so now it's clean. So I'm not wasting any of that Worcestershire sauce, however you want to say it. And then I use raw honey. And it's all crystallized right now. It's, well, not completely crystallized, but mostly. Like, it's not going anywhere. And so I use like a big tablespoon. Like a great big heaping tablespoon of honey. And because it's almost solid right now, I don't really have a choice but to swirl this around in that liquid and kind of just let it sit down in there and let it melt off of the spoon. That was my honey. And then I use a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I've already opened it with my can opener here. It's a safety can opener. It doesn't leave any sharp edges. It just comes right apart. I love this can opener. I love it, love it, love it. And then I just scoop that out into the pan. I think I could probably get rid of the spoon here, yeah. Yeah, all the honey is off of there now. And like I said, I usually like to simmer this for about an hour. And that's why I use a little bit extra water. While I was tweaking that original recipe, that's what I realized I had to do, because I don't like to just stir this together and then warm it through and call it a day. I think it tastes much better if you let it simmer for a while. And the tomato paste, you can see it's just one big congealed clump. And so you just have to stir that in to get it melted into the liquid, but the liquid isn't all the way hot yet. So it's not really dissolving off the spoon as quickly as I'd like. So I'm just going to scrape that off. Sorry if this is too long of a video, you guys. You know me, I can't do anything fast. Slow and steady wins the race, I guess. And so I'm just going to incorporate that tomato paste. And this tastes so much better than manwich, in my opinion. But, you know, I could just be partial, I guess. I think everything that you can make homemade is going to be better than what you can find in the store in a can or a box or anything like that. I mean, I cheat with that macaroni and cheese, but honestly, I'm not sure if I can do any better. Some things I don't think I can do any better than what you can get in the store. Some things I can do a lot better. And like this, like I was saying earlier, I just absolutely can't find this in organic, so I really had no choice but to seek out a recipe and then just tweak it and make it as good as I can get it. And so this is really soupy. Let me show you. This is very soupy, but that's how you want it. And actually, you know, sometimes if I let it cook for too long, you know, I'll just add a little bit more water to it. But yeah, you wouldn't want to put that on a bun right now, because that would just turn your bun into mush. But because I like to let the flavors sit and meld together, it all works out just fine. So I will catch you in a bit. Hold on. Alright, so it has been exactly 1 hour, and I initially had to turn that up. I kept it up on 5 just for a couple minutes, and then I had to turn it down to 3 pretty soon thereafter. And I did turn it down just a little bit for a little while, but for the most part I've kept it on 3, and I've kept the lid on. And I always just let the water drip back down into the pan, so I'm not making a mess or anything. And in the beginning I only had to stir probably every 10 minutes, but as you can see, it's starting to stick down there a little bit. The further along you go, the more often you have to stir. So I was stirring every 10 minutes in the beginning, and then I was going to every 5 minutes, and now, you know, probably every 3 minutes. And I've kept this burner on 3, and this is a 1000-watt electric infrared burner. But you can see that most of that liquid is gone, and now when I do this, That's more like the consistency of, you know, canned manwich or whatever. And so most of that moisture is gone. So I guess if you're looking for something quick, you don't want to make this recipe. But if you don't mind waiting around for a little while and taking a little bit of extra care, then, you know, you can have something good on your own. And you can see most of those peppers, you can't even recognize them anymore. Some of them you can. Some of them are pretty big chunks, like right there. But a lot of it is just cooked down and it's cooked in there and you can't even tell. But the flavor is really good. And I just have to take this into the house and serve it up for my son and his dad. And so this is all you're going to get. But I will try to take a picture later of this plated up. And we're just having organic tater tots. I think the brand is Alexia or Alexis. But we love tater tots around here, so those are in there baking right now. Actually, they're done, and I just turned the oven off. I had my son turn it off while I was out here doing this. So, that is it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful night, or day, or whatever time of day it is when you watch this. I will talk to you later. Bye.